It's a safe assumption that a game called Baldur's Gate 3 is a game that has had forerunners prior to its existence, and that those games might very well have been called Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. This also implies that the third title has received some inspiration from the previous titles, to varying degrees, and might possibly incorporate some elements from the older games to maintain that legacy. But personally, although I think it's good, that really isn't enough. I think direct inspiration should be smart, so I'd like to take the time to talk about two specific elements that, in my opinion, should be directly lifted from Baldur's Gate 2 and somehow worked into Baldur's Gate 3. One of the great class-defining features of Baldur's Gate 2 was the inclusion of class-related quests, which is to say quests that began as a general side quest for all classes, but, depending on the player's choice of class, could be extended with interesting and unique rewards, as well as quests related to said rewards. Each of the basic classes had this opportunity. For example, if you were playing a fighter, after you freed a fortress from its troll invaders and occupiers, you were offered a position as the Lord of the Land, complete with tasks, drama, and management of said lands. If you were playing a mage, after navigating and clearing an interplanar sphere, you were given the option to take over the sphere and manage it, creating useful magical items in the process. And were you to play a druid, you would first be tasked with clearing out a druid grove of shadow druids, and you would then be offered the position of leader of the grove afterwards. Class-specific quest lines are almost always a good feature in games, and obviously, Baldur's Gate 2 was not the only game to do it. Elder Scrolls has its history of joining different organizations and guilds, often in line with the type of character you're playing, and it would fit so well into Baldur's Gate 3. This could even be approached in a way that would trump the predecessor, in the sense of having class-related organizations and guilds that are still tied into the main quest in a certain way. For example, if you could join the Thieves Guild, then there might be an alternative way of advancing the plot along, as opposed to the possibility of the Cleric's Path. This specific type of interaction really enhanced Baldur's Gate 2, and it could do wonders to enhance Baldur's Gate 3 in giving the class you pick a greater sense of identity when playing it, to truly make it stand out and feel different, in addition to the obviously different playstyles between the classes. Even if they're not tied to the story, it would still be a tremendous addition to the game. In Baldur's Gate 3, weapons only have very brief descriptions, with little in the way of history and background. But in Baldur's Gate 2, weapons are not just weapons. They have histories and descriptions. But more than that, some weapons are truly epic. Spread out across the game, there are weapons that are so unique and so powerful that obtaining them not only requires a great deal of time investment and exploration, but also the gathering of parts. In this manner, weapons and items become goals in and of themselves, which clearly add to the RPG experience. Obviously, not every item or weapon must be this way, but the general principle is a very fine touch indeed. For example, in Baldur's Gate 2, there's a magical warhammer called Crom Fair that raises your strength to the absolute maximum level. It can strike down giants and Edens with but a blow. But in order to get it, you must first find a hammer of thunderbolts, gauntlets of ogre power, a belt of frost giant strength, and a magical Crom Fair scroll. And then, you must bring all of these components to Cromwell, a dwarven smith who forges magical items. And all of these things are spread out across the game. There are other powerful items that can be crafted in a similar fashion in the expansion, Throne of Baal, by an impsmith called Sespinar. Not only are these items powerful, they add flavor, and with their unique histories, add to the entirety of the gaming experience, rather than simple magic items that are just a little bit better in some nondescript way. Such items truly add oomph to the game. Of course, I have no way of knowing if these things will be added to Baldur's Gate 3. For all I know, they're already in the game. But if they're not in the game, then this is food for thought. One hope that I have is in the possibility of modding. Divinity Original Sin 2, for example, is a veritable smorgasbord of mods, and I can only expect Baldur's Gate 3 will be similar in such a way. Even if none of the things I've mentioned are actually implemented in the game, they nonetheless could be created by skillful and ambitious modders with the will to do so, and this gives me hope. I have no doubt that Baldur's Gate 3 will turn out to be a fantastic game, but there are always things that can be added to make it even more fantastic. As always, thank you for tuning in. Please leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe, as it really helps out the channel, and I'll check you out next time. Take care.